Sarah Ferguson has found herself back in the headlines after a newly updated royal biography made a series of fresh allegations about her private life, her spending habits, and even her relationship with her daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. According to the updated edition of Andrew Lownie's biography, The Rise and Fall of the House of York, Sarah was allegedly so reliant on other people's money that she regularly used Princess Beatrice's credit card, expected expensive gifts and freebies, and left staff feeling embarrassed almost every day. The claims are explosive, but it's worth mentioning now, before I get into it, these are allegations contained in the book and have not been proven. The updated paperback edition adds new interviews and accounts from people who reportedly worked closely with the Duke and Duchess of York over many years. One of the most significant sources is described as a former, long-serving personal assistant, whose recollections paint a picture of what life behind the scenes was supposedly like. According to the assistant, working for Sarah Ferguson was anything but easy. They described the environment as chaotic, saying there was a constant sense of uncertainty, and that staff spent much of their time trying to manage situations that should never have happened in the first place. The assistant even claimed there was a crushing sense of embarrassment around 80% of the time. One of the biggest allegations concerns money. The book claims staff members were frequently expected to pay for purchases using their own personal credit cards because they were not given company cards or immediate reimbursement. Even more surprising is the allegation that Sarah herself regularly relied on Princess Beatrice's credit card to cover expenses. If true, that would certainly raise eyebrows, especially considering Beatrice has long tried to maintain a reputation as one of the more private and sensible members of the extended royal family. She has built a successful career outside royal duties and has generally stayed away from the kinds of financial controversies that have followed her parents over the years. The former assistant also claims that staff were often left waiting to be paid and were required to sign strict confidentiality agreements. According to the book, very little that happened inside the York household was supposed to become public. Perhaps one of the more unusual stories involves Sarah's reported daily routine. The biography claims she insisted on having a fresh cream cake baked every single day, regardless of whether the previous day's cake had even been touched. It is one of several examples the author uses to describe what he says was an extremely expensive lifestyle behind closed doors. Another allegation claims Sarah would purchase large quantities of her own books to help boost their position on bestseller lists before giving those copies away as presents. The book also revives the nickname that has followed Sarah for years, freebie Fergie. According to the author, Sarah rarely wanted to pay full price for anything. It claims she expected wealthy friends to entertain her, borrowed security arrangements from acquaintances, accepted designer clothing that was only supposed to be on loan, and often looked for ways to avoid paying herself. Of course, Sarah Ferguson has faced criticism over money before. Many of us remember the infamous 2010 undercover newspaper sting, in which she was secretly filmed appearing to offer access to Andrew in exchange for money. Sarah later apologised publicly, calling it a serious error in judgment, and saying financial pressures had contributed to her decision. More recently, she has worked hard to rebuild her public image. She had become a successful children's author, regularly appearing on television, promoting charitable causes, and spoken openly about her breast cancer and skin cancer diagnoses over the past couple of years. Many people felt those health challenges generated genuine sympathy and marked something of a fresh chapter for her. But Andrew Lownie's updated biography suggests that many of the old patterns allegedly continued behind the scenes. The claims do not stop with Sarah herself. The book also discusses Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, suggesting they were often embarrassed by their mother's behaviour, while remaining deeply loyal to her. According to the former assistant, both daughters were very much under Sarah's influence, but privately uncomfortable with many of the situations she created. Publicly, however, they have always presented a united family front. Anyone who has watched Beatrice and Eugenie over the years knows they have consistently defended both parents, despite repeated scandals involving Sarah and Andrew. Whether it was financial controversies or Andrew's legal and public relations disasters, the sisters have rarely criticised either parent in public. Andrew Lownie argues that both princesses have also inherited some of the family's approach to commercial opportunities. Speaking about the updated book, he suggested they have turned almost every public appearance into a business opportunity. He argues that because neither Beatrice nor Eugenie are working royals, they could have stepped away from royal life entirely. He pointed out that they continue attending major royal events, including Christmas at Sandringham, while maintaining their titles despite having private careers. Lownie suggested they could have chosen to give up their royal titles, stop using royal residences, and pay full market rates for accommodation connected to the crown. Instead, he argues, they have continued benefiting from their royal status while pursuing commercial careers. That is, of course, his opinion, and others would argue the sisters have struck a reasonable balance between private employment and family obligations. The biography also explores Sarah's reported feelings about other members of the royal family. According to the book, she remained deeply troubled by the breakdown of her friendship with Princess Diana and frequently spoke about regretting how that relationship ended. Sarah and Diana were once famously close. They were childhood friends before both married into the royal family in 1986. Their relationship later deteriorated after Sarah's autobiography reportedly upset Diana. Andrew Lownie claims Sarah continued talking about Diana years later and struggled with guilt over how everything unfolded. The book also makes surprising claims about Queen Elizabeth II. Publicly, Sarah has often spoken warmly about the late Queen and has described her with affection in interviews following Her Majesty's death. However, the biography alleges that while Sarah praised the Queen publicly, Queen Elizabeth privately spoke very negatively about Sarah behind closed doors. The book further claims Sarah was openly critical of Prince Philip and Prince Edward, suggesting those relationships remained strained for many years. Perhaps the most controversial allegation in the updated edition concerns Jeffrey Epstein. Sarah Ferguson publicly distanced herself from Epstein after Andrew's friendship with him became international news. However, Andrew Lownie's book includes an eyewitness account claiming Sarah later stayed in an apartment belonging to Epstein years after publicly cutting ties. According to Lownie, a named witness claimed building staff recognised Sarah's visits and that doormen would escort her from the elevator to the apartment. Lownie argues that Sarah had many other places where she could have stayed and questioned why she allegedly chose that location. Sarah Ferguson has not publicly responded to these latest claims from the updated biography. What do you think about these new claims? Do you believe this updated biography presents an accurate picture of Sarah Ferguson behind the scenes? Or do you think former staff may have their own reasons for speaking out now? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy royal news and updates, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.